Welcome. You've entered a space where the silence is not empty, but full of memory. Here the walls remember verses, the floor knows footsteps that no longer walk, and the air carries the scent of dried rose petals. Tonight's story whispers in Attar's chamber. Let go of the day, of the weight, of the noise. Breathe in the hush between words and listen. The story is waiting. Chapter 1. Mourning over the dust of bottles. You wake with the wind. The sound comes first, soft, like breath through old wood. It moves through the latticed window, through the spaces between clay and stone, and settles against your skin like a whisper from centuries past. Your eyes open slowly. The light is amber, golden. It falls in patterns across the worn carpet beneath you. Patterns that shift and dance as the morning breeze stirs the branches outside. You lie still for a moment, feeling the warmth of the wool blanket against your shoulders, listening to the house breathe around you. This room, this sacred space, once belonged to Attar. Farid Uddin Attar, the perfumer of souls, the weaver of words that spoke of nightingales and roses, of the journey of the heart through 7 valleys of understanding. You are not him. You do not carry his pen, his wisdom, his gift for capturing the divine. Something quieter, something softer. You are a listener. The room holds his memory still. In the corners where shadows gather at dawn, in the scent of dried herbs that hangs in the air like incense from prayers offered long ago. In the way the light touches the old shelves, the wooden shelves lined with bottles and jars, each one holding the essence of flowers, roots, leaves that once grew in gardens, tended by hands that knew the secret names of growing things. You sit up slowly. Your body moves like water, finding its way downhill, unhurried, natural. The floor is cool beneath your feet. Smooth stone, worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. Attar's footsteps. The footsteps of those who came before him. The footsteps of those who came after. Seeking wisdom, seeking healing, seeking the peace that comes from understanding that all things return to their source. The morning air carries the scent of jasmine. It drifts through the window, mingles with the dry sweetness of rosebuds that hang in small bundles from the ceiling beams. You breathe deeply. The fragrance fills your lungs, your blood, your thoughts. It is the scent of patience, of time moving slowly, of days that unfold like petals opening to the sun. You stand and move toward the window. Your feet make no sound on the stone. Outside, the world is waking, but it wakes slowly here, gently, the way a cat stretches in a patch of sunlight, the way a flower turns its face toward the dawn. Beyond the latticed glass, you see the courtyard, small, enclosed by walls of sun-baked brick. In the center, a fountain, not grand, not ornate, simply a circular basin carved from dark stone, with water that rises from a hidden spring and falls back upon itself in an endless cycle of giving and receiving. The water catches the morning light, Each drop becomes a tiny mirror, reflecting the sky, the walls, the face of the fig tree that grows beside the fountain. Its branches spread wide, offering shade, offering the promise of sweet fruit when the seasons turn and summer ripens the world with heat and abundance. You watch the water for a long moment. The sound it makes is like a lullaby, soft, constant. It has been singing this same song for hundreds of years. It will sing it for hundreds more. There is comfort in its constancy, in knowing that some things endure, unchanged, unchanging, while the world spins and shifts around them. A bird lands on the rim of the fountain, small, brown, with bright eyes that dart and dance as it drinks. It does not hurry. It sips carefully, savoring each drop, then lifts its head to look around before drinking again. You smile. Even the birds here know the value of patience, of taking time, of receiving what is offered with gratitude and grace. You turn from the window and move toward the shelves. They line the eastern wall of the room, reaching from floor to ceiling, filled with bottles and jars of every size and shape. Some are made of clear glass that catches and holds the light. Others are fashioned from clay. Their surface is smooth and cool to the touch. A few are carved from wood, dark wood that smells of cedar and thyme. Each container holds something precious, dried petals from roses that bloomed in gardens where poets walked and dreamed. Leaves from mint plants that grew beside streams running clear and cold from mountain springs. Roots from herbs that knew the secret of healing, of soothing pain, of bringing sleep to those whose minds would not rest. You reach for a jar made of blue glass. It sits on the middle shelf, at the height of your heart. Inside, you can see the troubled thoughts. You hold the jar to the light. The morning sun passes through the blue glass, through the dried flowers, and creates patterns on the opposite wall. Patterns like lace, like the intricate designs woven into carpets by women who sang as they worked, their voices rising and falling in rhythm, with their fingers as they knotted silk and wool into images of paradise. The lavender whispers to you, not in words, not in sounds that ears can hear, but in the language of scent, of memory, of the body's wisdom that knows what it needs before the mind can name it. You unscrew the lid slowly. The fragrance rises like prayer, like the smoke from incense offered at dawn, like the breath of angels passing overhead. You close your eyes and breathe deeply. The scent fills you, calms you, reminds you that this moment, this breath, this heartbeat is enough, is everything, is all that has ever been or ever will be. Behind you, the wind stirs the hanging bundles of herbs. They rustle softly, like pages turning in an ancient book, like leaves whispering secrets to the sky. You set the jar on the small table beside the window and turn to look at them. There are dozens of bundles, dozens of different plants, each one gathered at the proper time, dried with care, stored with reverence. Chamomile for peaceful sleep, mint for clear breathing, rose hips for strength, sage for wisdom, each one a gift from the earth, each one a reminder that healing comes not from forcing, or rushing or demanding, but from listening, from waiting, from allowing what is needed to arise in its own time. You move toward the corner where a small brazier sits on a low wooden table. The brazier is made of brass, tarnished with age, etched with patterns of vines and flowers. It has not been lit yet today. The coals from last night have turned to ash, gray ash, soft as powder. The memory of fire, the ghost of heat that brought comfort through the cool hours of darkness, nist into the breath of herbs that will fill this sacred space with healing presence. You carry the kettle to the window and look out at the fountain again. The bird has gone, but the water continues its eternal song. The light has shifted, grown stronger, painting the courtyard in shades of gold and amber. The fig tree's leaves tremble in the gentle breeze, each leaf a small green hand waving to the sky. You unlatch the window and push it open. The wooden frame moves easily, silently, worn smooth by countless openings and closings. The morning air flows into the room, bringing with it the scent of jasmine, of wet earth, of the bread baking in distant ovens where women rise before dawn to knead and shape and bake the sustenance that feeds both body and soul. You step through the window into the courtyard. Your bare feet touch the cool stones that pave the space around the fountain. They are smooth, worn by weather, by time, by the passage of many feet walking this same path, seeking this same water, this same peace. The fountain is even more beautiful up close. The stone from which it is carved is dark gray, almost black, with veins of lighter color running through it like rivers of light frozen in stone. The water that rises from its center is clear as crystal. It bubbles up gently, without force, without hurry, like joy rising from a heart at peace. You kneel beside the fountain and dip the kettle into the water. It is cool against your hands, cool and clean and sweet with the memory of rain falling on mountains, of streams running through forests where deer drink in silence and birds nest in branches that have never known the touch of human hands. The kettle fills slowly. You do not hurry it. You watch the water rise, listen to the gentle sound it makes as it enters the brass vessel. Feel the weight increase in your hands as the kettle accepts this gift from the earth. When it is full, you lift it carefully and carry it back to the window. The sun has climbed higher now. The light falls differently through the latticed glass, creating new patterns on the floor, new designs that will last only moments before shifting and changing and becoming something else entirely. You step back into the room and close the window softly. The latch clicks into place with a sound like a sigh, like contentment settling into its proper place. You carry the kettle to the brazier and set it on the wooden table beside the tarnished brass bowl. Now comes the ritual of fire, the ancient dance of flame and air and fuel that has warmed human hearts since the first spark was struck from flint and tinder. You reach for the small wooden box that sits beside the brazier. Inside, char cloth made from cotton that has been burned slowly, carefully, until it becomes black as night, and ready to catch the smallest spark and nurture it into flame. Beside the char cloth, a piece of flint, dark stone, smooth and hard, and steel, a curved piece of metal worn bright by use. These simple tools have served for centuries, will serve for centuries more. There is something deeply satisfying about their simplicity, their reliability, their connection to all the fires that have been lit before, all the warmth that has been shared, all the meals that have been cooked, and the stories that have been told in the circle of firelight. You take a piece of char cloth between your fingers. It is soft, light, like touching a cloud made solid. You strike the steel against the flint. Once, twice. On the third strike, a spark flies free and lands on the char cloth. It glows like a tiny star, red-orange, alive with possibility. You blow gently on the spark. Your breath feeds it, encourages it. The char cloth begins to glow more brightly. You place it carefully among the kindling in the brazier, small twigs and shavings of wood that will catch quickly and burn hot enough to light the larger pieces. The flame grows, spreads, dances from twig to twig like a spirit made of light and heat. You add more wood, pieces carefully selected and saved from the pruning of fruit trees, from branches from dead wood that has served its time standing and is ready to serve again as warmth and comfort. Soon the fire is burning steadily. The flames dance and flicker, casting moving shadows on the walls, warming the air, filling the room with the clean scent of burning wood. You place the kettle over the fire. The brass bottom darkens as it absorbs the heat. Inside, the water begins its slow transformation from cool liquid to warm, from warm to hot, from hot to the rolling boil that will create the steam you need. While you wait, you move to another shelf and select a jar filled with dried mint leaves. They are green-gray with age, but their essence remains strong. Mint from plants that grew beside the fountain, that drank the same water that now sits in the kettle, that felt the same sun that now streams through the window, that breathed the same air that now fills your lungs. You open the jar and pour a small handful of leaves into a clay cup. A cup is simple, unglazed, made by hands that understood clay, that knew how to shape earth and fire into vessels that would hold not just liquid, but intention, purpose, the sacred act of drinking, of taking into the body what the earth has offered freely. The kettle begins to sing, a soft sound at first, like wind through distant trees. Then louder, more insistent, the voice of water calling to air, announcing its readiness to rise, to become vapor, to carry the essence of whatever it touches into the realm of breath and spirit. You remove the kettle from the fire and pour the hot water over the mint leaves. The steam rises immediately, carrying with it the bright green scent of mint, the memory of gardens, of cool mornings when dew clung to leaves like pearls, and the air was clean and sweet with the breath of growing things. You hold the cup in both hands, feeling the warmth spread through your palms, up your arms, into your chest, where it settles like a glowing coal of contentment. You breathe the steam, let it fill your lungs, your blood, your thoughts. The mint clears your mind, sharpens your senses, prepares you for this day of listening, of waiting, of being present to whatever wisdom the morning might bring. You sip slowly. The tea is hot, bittersweet, alive with the essence of the earth from which it came. Each sip is a prayer, a thank you, an acknowledgement of the gift that connects you to the soil, the rain, the sun, the countless small miracles that must occur for a seed to become a plant, for a plant to become medicine, for medicine to become healing. As you drink, you walk slowly around the room. Your feet make soft sounds on the stone floor, whisper sounds, like secrets being shared between old friends. You pause before each shelf, each collection of bottles and jars, letting your eyes rest on their contents, their colors, their textures, their patient waiting. Here, a jar of rose petals so dark they are almost black. Roses that bloomed in a garden where a poet once sat and wrote of love that transcends the physical world. Love that sees through the veils of appearance to the truth that lies beneath. The unity that connects all things in an endless dance of becoming and return. There, a bottle of clear glass filled with seeds from pomegranates, red seeds like tiny jewels, each one holding the potential to become a tree, to bear fruit, to feed bodies and souls with sweetness and nourishment. The pomegranate is an ancient symbol, a sign of abundance, of the many within the one, of the way small things can hold infinite possibility. And there, on the highest shelf, a wooden box carved with intricate patterns, vines and flowers intertwined with geometric design toward the center, where all patterns converge and become one pattern, where all designs reveal themselves as aspects of the same eternal design that underlies all creation. You do not reach for the wooden box, not yet. It holds something precious, something that must be approached with proper preparation, proper reverence, proper timing. You sense its presence above you, patient, waiting, knowing that when the moment is right, when your heart is properly prepared, it will open and reveal what it has been keeping safe all these years. You finish your tea and set the empty cup on the table beside the brazier. The fire has settled into steady burning. The flames are smaller now, quieter, but no less warm. They will burn for hours like this, providing heat, providing light, providing the comfort that comes from knowing fire is present, ready to cook food, to warm hands, to push back the darkness when evening comes. Outside, the sun has climbed higher. The light in the room has changed from amber to gold to white gold. It falls through the latticed window in sharp-edged rectangles that move slowly across the floor as the day progresses. In these rectangles of light, dust motes dance. Tiny particles of matter, so small they are almost spirit, floating, drifting, following currents of air too subtle for human senses to detect. You watch the dust motes for a long time. They move like stars in a slow heaven, like thoughts in a mind at peace, like prayers rising on invisible wings towards something vast and welcoming that waits beyond the ceiling, beyond the sky, beyond the furthest edge of what imagination can reach. There is a lesson in their movement, in their lightness, in the way they do not all change, all the endless dance of particles and planets and hearts beating in rhythm with the cosmic heart that beats at the center of all things. You move to the low wooden desk that sits beneath the eastern window. It is simple, unadorned, made from a single piece of wood taken from a tree that grew for decades before offering itself to human hands that would shape it into something useful, something beautiful, something that would serve for generations. On the desk, a piece of parchment, cream-colored, smooth, made from the skin of an animal that lived and grazed and gave its life so that words might be preserved, so that thoughts might be shared across time and distance, so that the invisible realm of ideas might find visible form and touch other minds, other hearts, other souls seeking truth in a world that often seems chaotic and confusing. Beside the parchment, a reed pen cut from a plant that grew beside water, beside streams where fish swam in cool shadows and birds came to drink and sing their liquid songs to the sky. The reed has been carefully prepared, its tip cut at the proper angle, its shaft hollow so that ink might flow through it, like blood through veins, like thoughts through consciousness, like love through hearts open to receive and give in equal measure. And beside the pen, a small bottle of ink, black ink made from gallnuts and iron and gum arabic, ingredients gathered from different corners of the earth and brought together through human skill and patience to create the medium through which thought becomes visible, through which the invisible realm of mind touches the visible realm of matter and leaves traces that can be read, interpreted, understood by eyes that know how to look beneath the surface of things. You do not pick up the pen. Not yet. The morning is still unfolding, still revealing itself, still offering its gifts of light and warmth and the scent of jasmine drifting through the window. There will be time for writing later, time for trying to capture in words what cannot really be captured, what can only be pointed toward, suggested, whispered in the hope that those who read will hear not just the words, but the silence between the words, the space where truth lives and breathes and waits to be recognized. Instead, you return to the shelves and let your hands move among the bottles and jars, like a musician's hands moving over the strings of an instrument, not pressing, not demanding, simply touching, simply making contact, simply allowing the connection between your seeking and what waits to be found. Your fingers pause on a jar of dried rosebuds. They are small, tight, closed like secrets waiting to be told, like prayers waiting to be answered, like hearts waiting to open and reveal the love that lives at their center. You lift the jar and hold it to the light. The rosebuds are deep red, the color of wine, of blood, of the sunset sky when day surrenders to night and the world prepares for rest. Roses, the queen of flowers, the symbol of beauty that blooms and fades and blooms again in an endless cycle that mirrors the movement of all life, all love, all the beauty that appears and disappears and reappears in forms both familiar and strange. Attar wrote of roses, of their fragrance that intoxicates the heart, of their thorns that teach the lesson that beauty and pain are often companions, of their brief flowering that reminds us to cherish what is present now, in this moment, before it passes and becomes memory. You open the jar slowly. The scent rises like incense, like prayer made fragrant, like the breath of angels passing overhead on wings too subtle for human eyes to see. It fills your nostrils, your lungs, your bloodstream, carrying with it the memory of gardens where lovers walked hand in hand, and poets sat in the shade of cypress trees and wrote of longing, of union, of the divine beloved who calls to every soul from the depths of its own heart. The fragrance of roses has healing power, not just for the body, though it soothes inflammation and calms the nervous system and encourages the production of the hormones that bring peace and rest, but for the spirit as well, for the part of human nature that remembers its divine origin, that recognizes its true nature as love itself, that knows itself as a drop of the infinite ocean, temporarily dreaming it is separate from the sea. You close the jar and return it to its place on the shelf. Each bottle, each jar, each container is a universe unto itself. Each holds wisdom, healing, the concentrated essence of plants that knew how to draw nutrients from soil, minerals from stone, energy from sunlight, and transform them into medicine, into beauty, into the substances that can help human beings remember who they truly are beneath the layers of forgetting that accumulate like dust on the soul. The room around you holds all of this, contains it, preserves it, keeps it safe for those who come seeking, searching, hoping to find not just physical healing, but the deeper healing that comes from reconnection with the source from which all healing flows. This was Attar's gift, not just his poetry, though his verses are like drops of divine wine that intoxicate the heart with longing for truth. But in the silence where questions dissolve and answers arise without words, in the stillness where the soul recognizes itself in everything it sees, you move to the carpet in the center of the room and sit cross-legged on its soft surface. The carpet is old, woven by hands that knew the secret of transforming wool and silk into images of paradise. The patterns flow around you, geometric designs that repeat and spiral and return to their source in an endless dance of form and color. Deep blues like the night sky, rich reds like roses blooming in moonlight, golden yellows like the sun rising over mountains where mystics sit in caves and contemplate the mystery of existence. In the center of the carpet, a medallion, circular, perfect, like a mandala, like a window into the realm beyond form, where all patterns resolve into the one pattern that underlies all creation. You place your hands on your knees and close your eyes. Your breath becomes like the breath of the earth itself, slow, steady, eternal. The sounds of the room surround you. The gentle crackling of the fire in the brazier, the soft whisper of wind through the window, the distant sound of water falling into the fountain. These sounds weave together into a symphony of presence, of peace, of the eternal now that contains all time within itself. Your body relaxes, your shoulders drop, your jaw unclenches, your forehead smooths, the tensions of sleep, the residue of dreams, the subtle contractions that accumulate even in rest. All of these begin to dissolve like salt in warm water. You sink deeper into the carpet, deeper into stillness, deeper into the silence that is not empty but full, pregnant with possibility, alive with the presence that lives at the heart of all things. Behind your closed eyelids, colors begin to dance, soft colors, gentle colors, like the light that filters through stained glass windows and places of worship, like the aurora that plays across the sky in lands of endless winter, like the phosphorescence that glows in tropical seas when darkness falls and the ocean becomes a mirror of the star-filled sky. These colors are not separate from you. They arise within your own consciousness. They are the light of awareness itself, the luminous presence that witnesses all thoughts, all sensations, all the countless phenomena that arise and pass away in the space of consciousness, like waves on the surface of an infinite ocean. You do not try to grasp the colors. Do not try to hold them, or analyze them, or understand them with the mind that always wants to name and categorize and file away for future reference. You simply watch, simply witness, simply allow them to dance and play, and dissolve back into the light from which they came. Time moves differently here. In this room, in this state of relaxed awareness, minutes might pass, or hours. There is no urgency, no schedule to keep, no appointments to remember, no tasks that cannot wait. There is only this moment, this breath, this gentle settling into the peace that is always present beneath the surface agitation of ordinary consciousness. Gradually, slowly, you become aware of something else, a presence, not visible to the eyes, not audible to the ears, but unmistakably there, like the pure being aware of itself as the one reality that appears as the many, while never ceasing to be the one. You remain still, remain open, remain receptive to whatever wants to arise in this space of sacred silence. You are like an empty cup waiting to be filled, like a blank page waiting for words to appear, like a garden prepared for seeds that will sprout and grow and bloom in their own perfect timing. The presence grows stronger, more palpable, like the feeling of approaching rain when the air becomes charged with electricity and every hair on the body stands alert and expectant, like the hush that falls over a forest when something sacred is about to be revealed, like the moment just before dawn when the darkness is deepest and the light is closest. And then, without warning, without preparation, a voice, not a voice that speaks to the ears, not sounds that vibrate through air and are decoded by the brain into meaningful patterns, but a voice that speaks directly to the heart, directly to to the soul, directly to the part of your being that knows without needing to understand, that recognizes truth without needing proof, that loves without needing reasons. The voice is ancient, timeless. It has been speaking since the beginning of time and will continue speaking until the end of time and beyond the end, into whatever lies on the other side of existence. It is the voice of the beloved, the voice of the divine, the voice of your own deepest nature, calling to itself across the apparent divide between seeker and sought. Listen, the voice says. Or perhaps it does not say this word at all. Perhaps listen is simply your translation of something that lies beyond words, beyond concepts, beyond the reach of language to capture or contain. But you understand. You know what is being asked, what is being offered, what is being given as a gift to any heart willing to receive it. You listen with your ears, with your heart, with every cell in your body, with the very atoms that compose your physical form, and the awareness that witnesses the physical form and knows itself to be both form and formlessness, both wave and ocean, both the drop and the sea. What you hear is silence, but not empty silence, not the mere absence of sound. This is full silence, pregnant silence, silence that contains all sounds within itself, all words, all music, all the conversations that have ever been spoken or ever will be spoken, all held in perfect balance, perfect harmony, perfect peace. In this silence, you begin to understand, not with the mind that grasps and analyzes and breaks things down into component parts, but with the heart that synthesizes and integrates and sees the wholeness that underlies all apparent fragmentation. You understand that this room, this moment, this presence is not separate from you, is not other than you, is not outside of you, waiting to be entered, or achieved, or attained. It is you. It is your own true nature, revealing itself to itself. It is the consciousness that you are, recognizing its own infinite nature, its own boundless creativity, its own capacity to appear as seeker and sought, as question and answer, as the lover and the beloved, locked in an eternal embrace that is both the source and the goal of all spiritual seeking. The understanding comes not as information, but as recognition. Like recognizing your own face in a mirror, like recognizing your own voice in an echo, like recognizing your own love in the love that streams toward you from every direction, from every flower, every bird, every particle of light dancing in the air, every breath that enters and leaves your lungs, every heartbeat that marks the rhythm of life pulsing through your veins. You open your eyes slowly. The room looks the same. The bottles and jars still line the shelves. The fire still burns in the brazier. The light still falls through the latticed window in patterns that shift and change and dance across the floor. But everything is different. Everything is luminous. Everything is alive with the presence that you now recognize as your own deepest nature, looking back at you from every surface, every shadow, every point of light. You rise from the carpet slowly. Your body feels different, lighter, more fluid, as if you are made of the same substance as the light itself, as if the boundaries between inside and outside have become more permeable, more transparent, more like suggestions than solid barriers. You move to the window and look out at the courtyard. The fountain continues its eternal song. The fig tree spreads its branches in an offering of shade and beauty through everything. The presence that has no name but is the source of all names. The reality that has no form but is the essence of all forms. The love that has no object but is the subject of all loving. A bird lands on the windowsill, small, brown, with bright eyes that look directly into yours. For a moment, you see yourself looking back, not just reflected in the bird's eyes, but actually present there, actually aware there, actually experiencing the world from that perspective, feeling the lightness of hollow bones, the quickness of a heart that beats faster than your own, the simple joy of being alive on a morning when the air is soft and the light is golden and the world is full of seeds and insects and clean water to drink. The bird flies away, but the recognition remains. The understanding that consciousness is not contained within the boundaries of any single form, any single body, any single perspective. It is the one consciousness appearing as the many, playing as the many, exploring itself through the countless eyes and hearts and minds that populate this infinite universe of its own creation. You turn from the window and move toward the desk again. The parchment waits. The reed pen waits. The ink waits. But now you understand their true purpose. They are not tools for capturing truth. Truth cannot be captured, cannot be held, cannot be imprisoned in words or concepts or ideas. Truth can only be pointed toward, suggested, whispered in the hope that those who read will look not at the words, but through the words, not at the finger, but at the moon toward which the finger points. You sit at the desk and take the reed pen in your hand. It feels different now, not like a tool separate from yourself, but like an extension of your own awareness, your own intention, your own love seeking to share itself with other hearts that hunger for the recognition of their own true nature. You dip the pen in ink and hold it poised above the parchment. What wants to be written? What words want to flow? What message wants to be shared? You do not know, cannot know, must not know if the words are to come from the source rather than from the small self that thinks it knows, that believes it understands, that imagines it has something to say. Instead, you wait. You listen. You remain open and receptive and empty like a flute waiting for breath to pass through it and become music. Like a mirror waiting for light to strike it and become vision. Like a heart waiting for love to fill it and become service. The first word comes, not from your mind, not from your memory, not from your store of knowledge or experience or understanding. It comes from the silence, from the space between thoughts, from the source that gives birth to all words while remaining forever beyond the reach of any word to contain or express. The word is breath. You write it slowly, carefully, allowing the ink to flow from pen to parchment, like blood flowing from heart to hand, like love flowing from source to expression, like wisdom flowing from the unknowable mystery into the realm of form, where it can be shared, received, recognized by other hearts seeking the same truth that you have found waiting within yourself. Breath, you write. And then you pause. Listen again. Wait for the next word to arise from the silence that contains all words within itself. Like an ocean contains all waves. Like space contains all objects. Like consciousness contains all experiences, while remaining forever untouched by any experience. Forever unchanged by any change. Forever at peace, despite all the apparent movement and activity and drama that plays out on its surface. The next word comes of, and then the, and then beloved. Breath of the beloved. The phrase sits on the parchment like a prayer, like an invocation, like a doorway opening onto infinite space. You read it again. Feel its resonance in your heart. Feel how it points beyond itself towards something that cannot be named, but can be tasted, touched, lived, breathed, embodied in every moment of conscious presence. You'll continue writing, not composing, not creating, simply receiving, simply allowing, simply serving as a channel through which the wordless truth can find temporary expression in the world of words, temporary form in the realm of forms, temporary embodiment in the dance of meaning that connects heart to heart across the apparent distances of space and time. Breath of the beloved, moving through the morning air, stirring the urds that hang like prayers from the ceiling of this sacred room, where silence teaches what words cannot say, and presence reveals what seeking can. The words flow like water, like honey, like the tears that come when the heart recognizes its own true nature after lifetimes of forgetting, after ages of searching outside itself for what was always present within, after eons of believing the story of separation when the truth of unity was always as close as the next breath, as immediate as the awareness that witnesses the breath, as intimate as the love that breathes the breath and knows itself as both the breather and the breath. You set down the pen and read what has been written. The words are simple, unpretentious. They do not claim to be poetry, do not aspire to greatness, do not seek to impress or amaze or demonstrate spiritual attainment. They simply point, simply suggest, simply whisper of the truth that lives beyond all words, while finding temporary expression through words, beyond all forms while appearing as forms, beyond all experience while being the very awareness in which all experience arises and dissolves. The morning sun has climbed higher. The light in the room has shifted again. The patterns on the floor have moved, changed, become new configurations of light and shadow that will exist for a few moments and then transform again in the endless dance of appearance and disappearance that characterizes all phenomena in the world of form. You rise from the desk and walk to the eastern window. Outside, the world continues its ancient rhythms. The fountain sings, the fig tree rustles its leaves in conversation with the wind. Somewhere in the distance, a call to prayer rises from a minaret, floating across the rooftops like incense, like the breath of devotion made audible, like the heart of the community beating in rhythm with the cosmic heart that beats at the center of all existence. You listen to the call. Feel it resonate in your chest. Feel how it awakens something ancient in your blood. Something that remembers when every moment was prayer, when every breath was worship, when every step was a pilgrimage toward the divine presence that was never absent, never distant, never anything other than the very ground of being itself. The voice of the muezzin fades, but its echo remains, not just in the air, but in your heart, in your cells, in the very atoms that dance together to create the temporary appearance you call your body, your life, your individual existence that is both real and illusory, both true and false, both separate and inseparable from the one consciousness that appears as the many while never ceasing to be the one. You return to the shelves and let your gaze wander over the bottles and jars. Each one calls to you with a different voice. Each one offers a different gift. Each one holds medicine not just for the body, but for the soul that inhabits the body, that moves through the body, that uses the body as a vehicle for exploring the infinite possibility. Your attention settles on a small bottle made of green glass, dark green, like the depths of a forest pool. Inside, you can see what looks like black powder, but you know it is not powder. It is ground myrrh, resin from a tree that grows in distant lands where the sun beats down mercilessly and only the strongest plants survive, only those that learn to store water in their tissues, to protect themselves with thorns, to offer their most precious gifts only to those who approach with patience and respect. Myrrh, the tears of the tree, solidified sorrow that has been transformed into healing, into blessing, into the sacred substance that was offered to kings and prophets and newborn children who would grow up to be bridges between heaven and earth, between the realm of spirit and the world of matter, between the infinite and the finite. You take the bottle from the shelf and hold it in your palms. The glass is cool, smooth. It warms slowly as your body heat transfers through your skin, through the glass, into the precious contents within. This is how healing works. Not through force, not through violence, not through breaking down and overpowering and dominating, but through warmth, through patience, through the gentle transfer of love from one being to another, until what was cold becomes warm, what was hard becomes soft, what was closed becomes open. You remove the cork from the bottle. The scent that emerges is complex, layered, like a symphony played by an orchestra of angels. There is sweetness in it, but also bitterness. There is earthiness, but also something that seems to come from beyond the earth, from realms where matter becomes so refined it is almost spirit, where form becomes so the scent of myrrh awakens memory, not personal memory, not the small collection of experiences that belong to this particular lifetime, this particular body, this particular story of birth and growth and learning and aging and eventual return to the elements from which all bodies are formed, but deeper memory, ancestral memory, the memory that lives in the blood, in the bones, in the DNA that carries the wisdom of countless generations who lived and loved and suffered and celebrated and passed on not just their genetic material, but their spiritual insights, their hard-won understanding, their accumulated wisdom about how to live in harmony with the sacred mystery that manifests as life itself. You breathe the scent deeply. Let it fill your lungs, your bloodstream, your brain, where it will trigger responses both chemical and spiritual, both measurable and mysterious, both scientific and sacred. The boundaries between these categories dissolve in the presence of substances like myrrh that work simultaneously on multiple levels of being, that heal not just symptoms, but causes, not just bodies, but souls, not just individuals, but the collective consciousness of humanity itself. You replace the cork and return the bottle to its place on the shelf, but the scent remains, lingers in the air like a blessing, like a reminder that healing is always available to those who know how to ask, how to receive, how to open themselves to the medicines that grow freely in the earth for any who have eyes to see and hearts to understand. The fire in the brazier has burned down to glowing coals, red-orange embers that pulse like tiny hearts, like stars breathing in the darkness of space, like the life force itself made visible in the dance of combustion that transforms solid matter into light, into heat, into the energy that warms bodies and cooks food and creates the sacred circle where stories are told and wisdom is shared and the bonds of community are forged in the fire of shared presence. You add more wood to the coals, small pieces that will catch quickly and burn cleanly. The flames rise again, dance again, cast their moving shadows on the walls, where they create a constantly changing gallery of abstract art, shapes that form and dissolve and reform in patterns that follow no logic except the logic of fire itself, the ancient intelligence that has been humanity's companion since the first spark was struck and the first flame was fed and the first circle of warmth was created in the darkness of a world that could be harsh and cold and unforgiving. But fire is not just warmth, not just light, not just the tool that cooks food and melts metal and drives the engines of civilization. Fire is transformation. Fire is the force that changes one thing into another, that breaks down what is old and worn out and no longer needed so that something new can emerge, something fresh, something more aligned with the evolutionary impulse that drives all of existence toward greater complexity, greater beauty, greater consciousness, greater love. You watch the flames dance and think of Attar's poetry. His verses about the moth that is drawn to the candle flame, the moth that circles closer and closer, unable to resist the pull of light, willing to sacrifice everything, even life itself, for the chance to merge with the source of illumination that calls to it from across the darkness. Most readers see this as a metaphor, a symbol, a poetic device that points toward the soul's longing for union with the divine. And it is that. But it is also more. It is recognition. It is the acknowledgement that at the deepest level, there is no separation between the moth and the flame, between the seeker and the sought, lover and the beloved. The apparent journey from one to the other is really the awakening of consciousness to its own true nature. The remembering of what was never forgotten, the return to what was never left. The moth does not die in the flame. The moth discovers that it is the flame, has always been the flame, will always be the flame. The dance of approach and merger and dissolution is the dance of consciousness playing with itself, exploring its own infinite creativity, celebrating its own boundless freedom to appear as multiplicity while never ceasing to be unity, to manifest as separation while never departing from wholeness. You move away from the fire and walk to the western wall, where another collection of bottles and jars waits in patient silence. These containers are different from the others, older, more weathered, as if they have been here longer, have witnessed more, have absorbed more of the subtle emanations that fill this sacred space with healing presence. Your hand reaches toward a jar made of clay, unglazed, rough to the touch. Inside, you can see what looks like small pieces of bark, dark brown, curved, like tiny boats that might carry prayers across the river that separates the world of form from the realm of pure spirit. This is cinnamon bark, cassia, the inner skin of trees that grow in lands where monsoons bring torrential rains, and the air is thick with moisture and the scent of growing things. Cinnamon, a spice of kings, the flavoring that was worth its weight in gold when trade routes connected distant lands and merchants risked everything to transport precious cargo across deserts and mountains and storm-tossed seas. But cinnamon is more than flavoring, more than spice. It is medicine. It warms the blood, stimulates circulation, awakens the digestive fire that transforms food into energy, into life force. The inner work of transformation that turns base metal into gold, ignorance into wisdom, separation into unity. You open the jar and let the warm scent of cinnamon fill your nostrils. It is like breathing liquid sunshine, like inhaling the essence of celebration itself, like taking into your body a concentrated joy of trees that knew how to dance with wind and rain and sun, until their very bark became a gift, a blessing, a medicine that could heal not just physical ailments, but the deeper sickness of forgetting, of believing the story of limitation when the truth of infinite potential was always as close as the next breath, as immediate as the awareness that breathes the breath. The scent awakens hunger, not just physical hunger, though your body recognizes that the sun is climbing toward its zenith and the time for the midday meal approaches, but spiritual hunger, soul hunger, a deep longing that drives all seeking, all prayer. All the various practices and paths and techniques that humans have developed in their attempts to reconnect with the source from which they never departed, to remember the truth they never forgot, to find the home they never left. This hunger is sacred. This longing is blessed. This desire for union, for connection, for the end of the sense of separation that seems to characterize human existence. This is not weakness, not failure, not evidence of spiritual inadequacy. It is the very mechanism by which consciousness awakens to itself, the divine strategy by which the one appears to become many, so that it can experience the joy of recognition, the bliss of reunion, the ecstasy of discovering that what seemed to be other was always itself in disguise. You close the jar and continue your slow journey around the room. Each step is a pilgrimage. Each breath is a prayer. Each moment of awareness is a gift that emerges from the silence and dissolves back into the silence, carrying with it the fragrance of recognition, the sweetness of understanding, the peace that comes when the seeking ends and what remains is simply presence, simply being, simply the natural joy of consciousness aware of itself as the source and substance and goal of all that appears to exist. The light from the window has shifted again. The sun is approaching its daily zenith. The shadows are growing shorter, sharper, more defined. In the courtyard, the fountain continues its eternal song, but now the water catches the light differently. Each drop becomes a prism, a tiny lens that breaks white light into its component colors and paints brief rainbows in the mist that rises from the basin and dissipates into the warm air. You stand at the window and watch this display of natural beauty, this spontaneous art exhibition that emerges without effort, without intention, without any artist except the intelligence that governs the movement of light through water, the intelligence that knows how to create beauty wherever conditions are right, wherever there is openness, wherever there is receptivity to the creative impulse that seeks to express itself through every possible medium, every available form, every willing vessel. This intelligence is not separate from you, is not other than you. You are not observing it from the outside. You are it. You are the intelligence looking at itself through human eyes, experiencing itself through human consciousness, creating beauty through human appreciation and recognition and wonder. The observer and the observed are one. The artist and the audience are one. The creator and the creation are one, playing an elaborate game of hide and seek with itself, an eternal dance of concealment and revelation that is both the method and the purpose of existence itself. A cat appears in the courtyard, gray and white, moving with the fluid grace that only cats possess, the ability to flow through space like liquid, like consciousness itself, moving through the various forms it assumes while remaining forever unchanged by any form, forever free of any limitation, forever at home in any environment, because it is the environment. It is the space in which all environments appear. The cat approaches the fountain cautiously, sniffs the air, tests the water with one paw, then drinks. Long, slow laps that seem to savor not just the wetness, but the very essence of water itself. The molecular structure that makes life possible, the medium through which nutrients flow and waste is eliminated, and the body maintains the delicate balance that allows consciousness to inhabit form and explore the possibilities of existence in the realm of matter. You watch the cat drink and feel a deep sense of kinship, not just with this particular animal, but with all sentient beings who share the basic needs of physical existence, who hunger and thirst and seek comfort and safety, and the simple pleasure of a sunny spot to rest in when the day's activities are complete. This sharing of basic needs is one of the foundations of compassion, the recognition that beneath all the apparent differences of species and culture and individual circumstance, there is a fundamental similarity, a common ground, a shared participation in the miracle of consciousness inhabiting form and exploring the infinite possibilities of life. The cat finishes drinking and sits beside the fountain, begins the ritual of grooming, licking its paw and using it to wash its face, licking its fur into the proper arrangement. This too is sacred. This attention to cleanliness, this care for the body that serves as the temporary vehicle for consciousness to explore the world of the senses. The cat does not see grooming as a chore, does not rush through it to get to something more important. The grooming is important, is sacred, is a form of worship, a way of honoring the gift of embodiment, a practice of gratitude for the miraculous cooperation of countless cells and organs and systems that work together to maintain the complex organism through which awareness experiences itself. You turn from the window and move toward the small alcove in the northeastern corner of the room. Here, partially hidden behind a curtain of deep blue silk, stands a wash basin carved from white marble. The marble is veined with gold, or what looks like gold, thin lines of metallic color that run through the stone like rivers of light frozen in mineral form. Beside the basin, a pitcher made of copper, green with age, polished by countless hands that have used it to pour water for washing, for cleansing, for the ritual purification that prepares body and soul for prayer, for meditation, for any activity that requires a clear mind and an open heart. You pour water from the pitcher into the basin. The sound it makes is musical, like liquid notes falling into a bowl, shaped specifically to resonate with the frequency of water striking stone. The water is cool, clear. It reflects your face as you lean over it. But the reflection wavers and shifts with the small movements of the surface, creating a fluid image that changes constantly, that refuses to be fixed or captured or held in any single configuration. This is the nature of all phenomena in the world of form, constantly changing, constantly flowing, constantly appearing and disappearing, like waves on the surface of an ocean that is itself always moving, always in flux, never the same from one moment to the next, yet somehow always recognizably itself, always unmistakably the ocean, regardless of what patterns the waves might form, or what storms might. You cup water in your hands and bring it to your face. The coolness is a shock, a blessing, a reminder that the body is not separate from the elements from which it is formed, is not isolated from the natural world that provides everything needed for physical life to continue, is not independent of the countless processes and cycles and systems that maintain the delicate balance required for consciousness to explore the possibilities of embodiment. The water runs down your face, down your neck, soaks into the simple cotton shirt you wear. The fabric darkens where the water touches it, becomes heavier, cooler. The sensation is pleasant, refreshing, like a baptism, like a rebirth, like a symbolic washing away of everything that is not essential, everything that is not real, everything that obscures the clear recognition of what you truly are beneath all the layers of identity and story and accumulated experience. You splash more water on your face, your arms, your hands. Each drop is a blessing. Each moment of contact between water and skin is a prayer, a thanksgiving, an acknowledgement of the gift of sensation, of the miracle that allows consciousness to experience texture and temperature, and the simple pleasure of cool water on warm skin. This is one of the great secrets of spiritual life. It is not found only in grand experiences, not only in dramatic visions or mystical states or moments of profound realization. It is found equally in the simplest activities, the most ordinary experiences, the most basic interactions between consciousness and the world of form. Washing the face can be as sacred as any ritual performed in any temple. Drinking water can be as holy as any communion. Breathing can be as profound as any prayer. The key is presence, attention, the willingness to be fully here, fully now, fully available to whatever is arising in this moment, without the need to make it different, without the compulsion to improve it, without the habit of comparing it to some imagined ideal of how things should be. You dry your face with a soft cloth woven from cotton that grew in fields where workers sang as they harvested the white bowls that would be transformed through human skill and patience into fabric, into clothing, into the simple luxury of clean, dry cloth against clean, wet skin. Even this small comfort is a gift, a blessing, a reminder that you live in a web of interconnection that spans the globe, that includes countless other beings whose labor and creativity contribute to the quality of your daily life in ways both visible and invisible, both obvious and subtle. The morning is advancing. The sun climbs higher. The light grows stronger. In the courtyard, the cat has finished grooming and found a patch of sunlight where it curls into a perfect circle of contentment. Its eyes close. Its breathing slows. It settles into the deep relaxation that cats seem to achieve so effortlessly. The ability to be completely present in the body, completely at rest, completely without concern for past or future, or anything except the warmth of sun on fur and the simple pleasure of existing in a moment of perfect safety and comfort. You watch the sleeping cat and feel a wave of tenderness, not just for this particular animal, but for all beings who struggle to find peace in a world that often seems chaotic and unpredictable. The cat has found its patch of sunlight, has claimed its moment of rest, has allowed itself to trust in the basic goodness of existence enough to let go, to surrender, to stop vigilant watching and simply be. This capacity for trust is one of the great teachings available to human consciousness. Not naive trust that ignores real dangers or pretends that suffering does not exist, but fundamental trust in the intelligence that governs existence itself. Trust in the process by which consciousness explores its own infinite nature through the apparently finite forms it assumes. Trust in the love that is the source and substance and goal of all existence. The love that never abandons any being, no matter how lost they might seem, no matter how far they might wander from the recognition of their true nature. You move away from the window and return to the central area of the room, where the carpet waits with its intricate patterns of vines and flowers and geometric designs that draw the eye inward toward the medallion at the center, the perfect circle that represents the unity from which all apparent multiplicity emerges and to which it inevitably returns. You sit cross-legged on the soft wool and close your eyes. The room settles around you. The sounds deepen. The fire crackles more softly. The wind whispers more gently through the window. Even your own breathing becomes more subtle, more refined, more like the slow inhalation and exhalation of a space that has witnessed countless moments of prayer and meditation, and the quiet seeking that characterizes human hearts in search of their true home. In this stillness, in this silence that is full rather than empty, pregnant rather than barren, alive rather than dead, you begin to sense something approaching, not from outside, not from any particular direction, but from within the stillness itself, from the heart of silence, from the center of the center where all movement originates and to which all movement returns. It comes as a presence, as a warmth, as a feeling of being held in arms that are infinitely strong and infinitely gentle. But it also comes as understanding, as recognition, as the dawning awareness that what you have been seeking through all your practices and prayers and quiet moments of listening is what you are, has always been what you are, will always be what you are, regardless of whether you recognize it or not, regardless of whether you remember it or not, regardless of whether you feel worthy of it or not. This understanding does not come as information, does not arrive as a concept to be grasped by the intellect. It comes as direct experience, as immediate knowing, as the kind of recognition that needs no proof because it is proof, needs no confirmation because it is confirmation, needs no external validation because it arises from the very source of all validation. The awareness that is your deepest nature, the consciousness that is reading these words right now, the presence that witnesses all thoughts and experiences while being touched by none of them. You sit with this recognition. Let it permeate your being. Let it sink into your cells, your bones, your blood. Let it transform not just your understanding, but your actual experience of being alive in a human body, in a world that appears to be made of separate objects, but is actually one seamless whole appearing as multiplicity. One Infinite consciousness, playing all the roles in the cosmic drama it has created for its own entertainment and enlightenment. The understanding stabilizes, deepens, becomes not just a momentary glimpse, but a steady recognition. You open your eyes, and the room looks the same, but everything is different. The bottles and jars on the shelves are not separate objects, but manifestations of the same consciousness that you are. The fire in the brazier is not separate from you, but the same life force that animates your body, appearing as flame. The light streaming through the window is not external illumination, but the same awareness that illuminates your thoughts, appearing as photons, dancing through space. You rise from the carpet and move with new appreciation through this sacred space. Each step is conscious. Each breath is deliberate. Each movement is a celebration of the miracle that allows the formless to experience itself through form, the infinite to explore itself through the infinite, the eternal to play in the realm of time. You return to the shelves and select a small bottle filled with what looks like golden oil. This is oil of sandalwood, precious beyond measure, distilled from the heartwood of trees that grow for decades before their centers become suffused with the aromatic compounds that give sandalwood its distinctive scent, its cooling properties, its ability to calm the mind and open the heart, and create the conditions in which deeper states of consciousness can arise naturally and effortlessly. You remove the cap and touch a single drop of the oil to your forehead, to the point between your eyebrows where mystics say the third eye waits, the eye that sees not with physical vision, but with the vision of the heart, the perception that recognizes the unity underlying all apparent diversity, the sight that beholds the divine presence shining through every form it assumes. The oil is cool against your skin. It absorbs quickly, disappears into the pores, enters the bloodstream, where it will travel to every cell in your body, carrying with it not just the molecular compounds that create its fragrance, but something more subtle, something that works not just on the physical level, but on the energetic level, the emotional level, the spiritual level, where healing happens not through intervention, but through recognition. Not through doing, but through being. Not through effort, but through surrender to what is already perfect, already whole, already complete. The scent of sandalwood fills your awareness. It is sweet, but not cloying, woody, but not heavy, complex, but not confusing. It is the scent of peace itself, the fragrance of a mind that has stopped seeking and found what it was seeking in the very act of stopping, in the very moment of surrendering the search and recognizing that what was sought was always the seeker. What was desired was always the one who desired. What was loved was always the lover dreaming of separation, so that it could experience the joy of reunion. You replace the cap on the bottle and return it to its place on the shelf. But the fragrance remains, lingers in the air, continues to work its subtle magic on your nervous system, your endocrine system, your consciousness itself. This is how real healing happens, not through force, not through manipulation, not through overwhelming the system with powerful interventions, but through gentle invitation, through creating conditions, through offering the system what it needs to remember its own innate capacity for balance, for harmony, for the self-regulation that is the natural state of any organism that is not fighting against itself. The morning is drawing toward its close. The sun has passed its zenith and begun its slow descent toward the western horizon. The light in the room has grown softer, warmer, more golden. The shadows are lengthening again, stretching across the floor in new patterns that will last only minutes before shifting and changing and becoming something else entirely. You feel a deep sense of completion settling over you, not the completion that comes from finishing a task or achieving a goal or reaching a destination, but the completion that comes from recognizing that there was never any task to be completed, never any goal to be achieved, never any destination to be reached. The completion that comes from understanding that the journey was always circular, that the seeking was always the finding, that the question was always the answer wearing the disguise of doubt, so that the joy of recognition could be experienced fresh and new in each moment of awakening. You move to the window one last time and look out at the courtyard. The cat is still sleeping in its patch of sunlight. The fountain still sings its eternal psalm. The fig tree still spreads its branches in an offering o shade and beauty. But now you see these not as separate phenomena, but as expressions of the same consciousness that you are, as aspects of the same infinite awareness that is appearing as multiplicity while never ceasing to be unity, as waves on the surface of the same ocean that is your own deepest nature. A gentle breeze stirs the air. It carries the scent of jasmine, of roses, of all the flowers that bloom in gardens where lovers walk, and poets sit, and mystics contemplate the mystery of existence. The breeze touches your face like a caress, like a blessing, like the breath of the beloved made tangible, made sensible, made available to human senses that are themselves expressions of the divine creativity that delights in experiencing itself through every possible form of perception, every available mode of awareness, every conceivable way of being conscious. You breathe the fragrant air deeply. Let it fill your lungs, your blood, your thoughts. Let it remind you, separate from the world you perceive, not isolated from the beauty you observe, not independent of the love you recognize, shining through every form, every face, every moment of conscious presence. The day settles into afternoon. The light continues to shift and change. The shadows continue their eternal dance across the floor. And you settle too into presence, into peace, into the deep contentment that comes not from getting what you want, but from recognizing that what you are is what you have always wanted, is what everyone has always wanted, is the very source and substance of all wanting, all seeking, all the longing that drives conscious beings to search for home when home is what they are, to seek for love when love is what they are, to hunger for truth when truth is what they are. You lie down on the carpet. Rest your head on a small cushion filled with dried lavender. The scent rises around you like a cloud of peace. like the very essence of relaxation made aromatic, made healing, made available to the nervous system that has carried you through another morning of gentle awakening, another few hours of conscious presence, another period of time in which consciousness explored its own infinite nature through the particular form and perspective that you appear to be. Your body relaxes completely. Your muscles soften, or breathing slows and deepens. Your thoughts become like clouds, drifting across the sky of awareness, appearing, lingering for a moment, dissolving back into the vastness from which they came. You do not follow the thoughts. Do not engage with them. A space of consciousness, like waves on the surface of an ocean that is always at peace in its depths, regardless of what storms might disturb its surface. The room grows quiet around you. The fire settles into glowing embers. The wind outside becomes a whisper. Even the fountain's song seems to soften, to become more distant, more like a lullaby than a celebration, more like the breath of the earth itself, settling into the peaceful rhythm that underlies all the apparent activity and movement and drama of existence in form. Your eyelids grow heavy. Your breathing becomes even more subtle, more refined, more like the breathing of the room itself, of the house itself, of the earth itself, as it turns slowly through space, carrying all its passengers on a journey that has no destination, because every moment is the destination. Every breath is the arrival. Just one more. Every heartbeat is the homecoming for which all beings long, without knowing that they are already home, have always been home, will always be home in the heart of the one consciousness that appears as the many, while never ceasing to be the one. Sleep approaches, not as unconsciousness, but as a deeper form of consciousness. Not as the absence of awareness, but as awareness exploring different realms of its own infinite nature. Not as escape from reality, but as entry into the deeper reality that underlies all apparent realities, the source reality from which all dreams emerge and to which all dreams return, the unchanging awareness in which the dream of time and space and individual existence plays out like a movie projected on the screen of infinite being. Your body is warm. The carpet is soft beneath you. The scent of lavender surrounds you like a cocoon of peace. The light from the window falls across your closed eyelids in patterns of gold and amber that shift and dance and gradually fade as consciousness settles into the deeper layers of itself, the quieter levels of being, the more subtle dimensions of existence where healing happens without effort and wisdom arises without seeking, and love reveals itself as the very fabric from which all experience is woven. You drift, sink, settle into the embrace of whatever lies beyond the waking state, beyond the ordinary levels of consciousness, beyond the familiar boundaries of individual existence. But you do not disappear. Do not cease to be. Do not lose yourself in unconsciousness. You remain. You endure. You continue as the very awareness in which all states of consciousness arise and dissolve, the unchanging witness of all change, the eternal presence that is both the dreamer and the dream, both the seeker.
We're never separate, never two, never anything other than one consciousness, playing the beautiful game of forgetting and remembering its own infinite nature. And as sleep deepens, as consciousness explores the deeper territories of its own vastness, the room continues to hold you in its sacred embrace. The bottles and jars continue their patient waiting. The herbs continue to release their subtle fragrances into the air. The fire continues to burn down to ash and ember. The light continues to shift and change and paint new patterns on the walls and floor. And somewhere in the silence between one breath and the next, between one heartbeat and the next, between one moment and the next, you recognize that this is not just sleep you are entering, but the very source of sleep, the very ground of rest, the very foundation of peace that supports all activity, all seeking, all the countless ways that consciousness explores and celebrates and enjoys its own infinite creativity. Your body's warm, completely relaxed, completely at peace. The candle of awareness flickers gently in the stillness of your being, and you drift deeper, softer. Afternoon will become evening. Evening will become night. Night will become morning again. The cycle continues. The wheel turns. The dance of time and timelessness continues its eternal movement. And through it all, in it all, as it all, consciousness remains aware, present, at peace, at home in every moment, at rest in every movement, at one with everything that appears to be other, while knowing itself as the very source and substance of otherness itself. And in this knowing, in this recognition, in this deep and abiding peace, Chapter 1 draws to its natural close, its organic completion, its gentle dissolving back into the silence from which it arose and to which it returns, carrying with it the fragrance of jasmine, the warmth of sunlight, the sound of water singing to itself in an eternal fountain of joy that springs from the very heart of existence and flows forever toward no destination except the recognition of its own infinite source. Chapter 2, Rosewater and Paper. You wake to the gentle sound of water, dripping somewhere in the walls of the old house. The morning light filters through the latticed window, casting soft, geometric patterns across the worn wooden floor. You breathe slowly, feeling the coolness of the dawn air against your skin. Your feet touch the smooth clay tiles, still cool from the night. You move slowly through the room, past Attar's old shelves, past the brass scales that once weighed precious oils, past the ceramic jars that still hold the memory of frankincense. In the corner, near the small alcove where the morning light gathers, sits the clay brazier. You have kept it burning low through the night. The embers glow softly, like tiny amber stars. You reach for the copper pot, its surface worn smooth by countless hands. You fill it with water from the clay pitcher. The water is clean, clear, holding a rose petals wait in their wooden bowl, dried and curled, like small prayers written in crimson. You gathered these petals yourself, from the climbing roses that grow against the south wall. Their fragrance still holds the memory of summer mornings. You pour the petals into the copper pot, watching them float like tiny boats on a still pond. The water receives them gently, and you place the pot over the glowing embers. The fire breathes beneath the copper, sending small whispers of heat upward. You sit beside the brazier, cross-legged on the woven carpet, feeling the warmth begin to rise. This is the way you begin each day, with the slow ritual of rose water. The Persian physicians of old knew this practice, knew how the gentle steam would calm the spirit, how the rose would open the heart to receive the day's quiet gifts. You closed your eyes, listening to the small sounds the water makes as it begins to warm. The copper pot expands slightly, making soft ticking sounds, like a clock made of metal and patience. The house around you holds its morning silence. The thick walls, built of sun-dried brick and plaster, keep the world's noise at bay. Here, in Attar's chamber, time moves differently, moves like honey, like the slow turning of prayer beads. Above you, the wooden beams creak softly, settling into the day's warmth. The cedar wood still carries its ancient scent, mixed now with centuries of rose oil. The Persian alchemists understood this transformation, how heat and moisture could draw forth the soul of a plant, how the visible steam carried invisible medicine, medicine for the body, medicine for the spirit. You breathe in the rising scent, feeling it enter your lungs, your blood, your bones. The rose essence travels through you like gentle light, softening the edges of thought, quieting the small anxieties that live in the corners of the mind. This is not mere cooking. This is prayer made visible. This is the ancient art of extracting sweetness from the world, of finding the hidden perfume that lives within the heart of all growing things. The water begins to simmer, small bubbles rising to kiss the floating petals. The petals darken, releasing their color into the water, turning it the pale pink of dawn clouds, of cheeks touched by cold air. You reach for the wooden spoon, carved from olive wood, its surface polished by years of stirring, of mixing, of the gentle circular motions that transform separate things into unified essence. Slowly, you stir the rose water, watching the petals dance in their copper cauldron. The motion is meditative, hypnotic. Your hand moves in the ancient rhythm, the rhythm that connects you to all the women and men who have stirred such pots, in such rooms, for 1,000 years. The steam rises more steadily now, filling the air with the concentrated breath of roses. You feel your shoulders relax, your breathing deepen. The rose essence works its gentle magic, reminding your body of gardens, of safety, of the sweetness that exists even in solitude. On the low wooden table beside you, your writing materials wait. The reed pen, cut from the marsh reeds that grow beside the slow rivers of Persia, lies beside the small ceramic inkwell. The ink inside is black as midnight, made from soot and gum arabic, mixed with rose water for smoothness. Beside the inkwell, sheets of paper wait, handmade paper, created by the paper makers of Samarkand. Each sheet bears the subtle texture of the wooden forms on which it was pressed, the gentle irregularities that mark it as touched by human hands. The paper makers would soak mulberry bark for days, beating it to soft pulp, mixing it with clear water in large wooden vats. Then, with screens of woven bamboo, they would lift each sheet from the water, letting it dry in the mountain air until it became this surface ready to receive words, ready to hold the marks that might become poetry. But you are not ready to write, not yet. First, the rose water must reach its perfect concentration. First, you must listen. You continue stirring, feeling the wooden spoon move through the thickening water. The petals have given their color now, their essence drawn out by the patient heat. Some have begun to sink. Their mission completed. Their beauty transformed into something even more beautiful. The scent in the room has deepened, has become rich and complex. No longer the simple fragrance of fresh roses, but something distilled, concentrated, like the essence of summer captured in liquid form. In the time of the great Persian physicians, rose water was considered medicine for the heart, both the physical heart that beats in the chest and the spiritual heart that yearns for beauty, for connection, for the divine presence that hides in all created things. They would prescribe rose water for melancholy, for the sadness that comes from forgetting one's true nature. They understood that scent travels directly to the deepest parts of the brain, to the places where memory and emotion intertwine. Where healing begins, you lift the wooden spoon, watching the rose-colored water drip back into the pot. The liquid has taken on a slight thickness, a viscosity that speaks of concentration, of essence successfully drawn from matter. Slowly, carefully, you pour the finished rose water through a fine cloth strainer into a glass bottle. The liquid flows like liquid light, like captured sunrise. The petals remain in the strainer, their color faded now, their gift given. These spent petals you will not discard. In the Persian tradition, nothing is wasted. These petals, though they have given their essence to the water, still hold value. They will go into the small clay pot by the window, where they will dry completely, becoming potpourri, becoming a gentle fragrance to scent the air. The glass bottle now holds perhaps 2 cups of perfect rose water, enough for many days of tea, of face washing. The bottle catches the morning light, holding it like a small sun. You cap the bottle with a cork stopper, sealing in the essence, preserving the morning's work. This rose water will improve with time, will develop depth and complexity as it ages, like wine, like wisdom, like the understanding that comes only through patient waiting. Now, with the rose water complete, you turn your attention to the writing materials. You lift the reed pen, feeling its lightness in your fingers. This pen was cut from reeds that grew beside the Amu Darya, the great river that flows through the heart of Persia. The reed cutter would wade into the shallows in early autumn, when the reeds had reached their full height, but before the winter winds could make them brittle. He would select only the finest stalks, those that were straight and strong, free from blemishes. Back in his workshop, he would cut each reed to the proper length, then split the tip with a small knife, creating the point that would carry ink to paper. The split must be precise, not too wide or the ink would flow too freely, not too narrow or the pen would scratch the paper's surface. Your pen has been used many times. The tip has been trimmed and retrimmed, shaped and reshaped, until it knows your hand, until it responds to the lightest pressure, the subtlest movement. You dip the pen into the inkwell, watching the black liquid climb the hollow reed, filling it with the potential for words, for letters, for the marks that might become meaning. The ink is your own creation, made according to the ancient recipes. Soot from burned apricot pits, mixed with gum arabic from the acacia trees that grow in the desert, thinned with a few drops of the rosewater you have just made. This ink will never fade, will never lose its deep black intensity. The scribes of old knew these recipes, knew how to create inks that would outlast empires, that would carry the words of poets across centuries, across the vast distances of time. You hold the loaded pen above the paper, feeling the weight of possibility. But you do not begin to write. Not yet. Instead, you listen. You listen to the house settling around you, to the soft sounds of the wooden beams expanding in the morning warmth, to the distant call of the dove that nests in the eaves. You listen to your own breathing, to the steady rhythm of your heart, to the small sounds your body makes as it sits in stillness, the whisper of cloth against skin, the gentle creak of the woven mat beneath you, and deeper still, you listen for something else, for the words that exist before they are written, for the poetry that lives in the space between silence and sound, between thought and expression. Attar knew this listening. In his great work, The Conference of the Birds, he wrote of the journey the soul must make through 7 valleys of understanding. The first valley, the valley of quest, requires this kind of listening, this patient attention to what wants to emerge. You trace the pen above the paper, not touching the surface, but following the invisible lines that seem to write themselves in the air. Your hand moves slowly, as if guided by something beyond conscious intention. The morning light has shifted. The geometric patterns on the floor have moved slightly, marking the passage of time. But time here is not the urgent time of the marketplace, the measured time of appointments and obligations. This is the deep time of contemplation, the patient time of waiting for truth to reveal itself. You set the pen down, letting it rest beside the inkwell. You close your eyes again, returning to the pure act of listening. In the silence, you begin to hear the house's memories, the echo of all the words that have been written in this room, all the prayers that have been whispered, all the dreams that have taken shape within these walls. You hear the ghost of Attar's voice, reading his own verses aloud, testing the rhythm, feeling for the places where the words catch fire, where meaning transcends the merely verbal and becomes something close to music. The Persian poets understood that words are more than information. They are vibrations, frequencies that can alter consciousness, that can open doors in the heart that remain closed to ordinary speech. When Attar wrote, "The soul is like a mirror," he was not making a comparison. He was describing a reality. The soul does reflect, does catch and hold light, unquote. Does show us ourselves as we truly are, beneath the layers of pretense and fear. You breathe in the rose-scented air, feeling the essence work its subtle magic. The tension in your neck and shoulders continues to dissolve. Your body settles more deeply into the woven mat, into the embrace of gravity, into the patient earth that holds all things. The copper pot still sits on the brazier, now empty but warm. Its surface reflects the dancing flames, creating small, moving lights that play across the walls. These lights seem almost alive, seem to pulse with their own gentle rhythm. You open your eyes, looking again at the blank paper. But it no longer seems blank. It seems full of potential, pregnant with unborn words, waiting for the right moment, the right breath, the right listening to bring forth what wants to be born. In the corner of the room, a spider works on her web, adding strand to strand with infinite patience. Each thread placed precisely, according to an ancient pattern that lives in her small body. She does not hurry, does not force. She simply follows the intelligence that moves through her. You watch her work, mesmerized by the delicate precision, the way each movement serves the whole, the way beauty emerges from patient attention to the smallest details. This is how poetry comes, thread by thread, word by careful word, not through force or will, but through this kind of listening, this quality of attention that allows what wants to emerge to find its own perfect form. You pick up the pen again, dip it once more in the dark ink. This time, your hand moves without hesitation, touches the paper's surface, and leaves the first mark. A single letter, the Persian letter Aleph, standing like a prayer, like a pillar of light on the cream-colored page. The letter is perfect, formed with just the right pressure, the right speed. The ink flows smoothly, creating a line that is both decisive and graceful. The mark seems to belong on the paper, as if it had always been there, waiting to be revealed. But you write no more. One letter is enough for now. One mark to break the silence between pen and paper, to establish the relationship between intention and expression. You set the pen aside, blowing gently on the wet ink, watching it dry from liquid black to solid black, from potential to actuality. The letter seems to settle into the paper, to become part of its substance. Around you, the morning continues its slow unfolding. The light has grown stronger, more golden. The shadows have shortened. The doves are singing their morning songs, liquid notes that seem to pour like honey into the warming air. You stand slowly, stretching your legs, feeling the blood return to places where it had pooled during the long sitting. Your body is loose, relaxed, infused with the calm that comes from unhurried activity, from doing one thing at a time with complete attention. You walk to the window, looking out at the small courtyard garden. The climbing roses are in full bloom, their faces turned toward the rising sun. Bees move among the blossoms, their wings catching tiny fragments of light, their low humming adding to the morning's gentle symphony. In the center of the courtyard, the small fountain continues its eternal conversation. Water falls from the carved stone basin into the pool below, each drop catching light, holding it for a moment, then releasing it as it merges with the greater water. The fountain was built according to the ancient principles. The water rises through a hidden pipe, falls in a perfect arc, then flows through shallow channels to water the rose beds. Nothing is wasted. Everything serves beauty, serves life. You breathe deeply, taking in the mingled scents of roses and wet earth, of the morning air that carries hints of distant mountains, of snow that lives high above the heat of the valley, of the vast sky that stretches beyond the garden walls. This is your world. This small chamber, this courtyard, this routine of rose water and careful listening. It is enough, more than enough. It is a universe contained in a single room, a cosmos held in the space between heartbeats. You return to your writing materials, to the single letter waiting on the cream-colored page. Like the spider with her web, you will have built something beautiful, something that reflects the deep peace of this place, the profound contentment of this life lived in harmony with the ancient rhythms. For now, it is enough to have made this beginning, to have honored the morning with the ritual of rosewater, to have listened to what the silence wanted to say, to have allowed one letter to find its way from the realm of possibility into the realm of form. The sun climbs higher. The geometric patterns on the floor shift and change. The house settles deeper into the warming day, and you settle deeper into the timeless present, into the eternal now where all poetry is born, where all beauty waits to be discovered, where the soul learns to recognize itself in the mirror of creation. You close the inkwell, clean the reed pen with a soft cloth, set the paper aside where the ink can dry completely. These simple tasks, performed with attention, with gratitude, become themselves a form of prayer, a way of honoring the tools and materials that serve the mysterious process of bringing word into world. The morning ritual is complete, but its effects will linger. The rose-scented air will continue to work its gentle magic. The memory of this peaceful beginning will inform the entire day, will create a foundation of calm upon which all other activities can rest. You sit once more beside the window, hands folded in your lap, watching the play of light and shadow in the courtyard, feeling your breathing slow, feeling your heartbeat settle into its most natural rhythm. This is the true work, this patient cultivation of inner stillness, this careful tending of the conditions in which poetry, in which truth, in which beauty can take root and grow. You do not need to understand the mystery. You need only to serve it, to create the space in which it can unfold, to listen with the quality of attention that allows the hidden to reveal itself, the silent to find its voice. The morning light grows stronger, warmer. The roses in the courtyard release more of their fragrance into the brightening air. The fountain continues its liquid music, and you rest in the center of it all, a conscious witness to the endless creativity of existence, a listener in the vast conversation between earth and sky, between silence and song, between the longing heart and the mysterious source from which all longing springs. Your body is warm from the brazier's gentle heat. Your mind is clear from the morning's meditation. Your spirit is open to whatever wants to emerge from the fertile darkness of unknowing. This is how each day begins in Attar's chamber, with fire and water, with patience and attention, with the slow ritual that transforms the ordinary morning into something sacred, something touched by the eternal beauty that lives hidden in all things, waiting to be discovered, waiting to be welcomed home. The copper pot catches the light. The glass bottle holds its rose-colored treasure. The single letter waits on the cream page like a seed planted in fertile soil. And you breathe and listen and rest in the profound contentment of a life lived in service to beauty, in devotion to the mystery that reveals itself one breath at a time, one letter at a time, one perfect morning at a time. Your eyelids grow heavy with the deep peace that comes from alignment, from living in harmony with the natural rhythms, from allowing each moment to unfold at its own perfect pace. The rose-scented air fills your lungs. The gentle warmth from the brazier caresses your skin. The soft sounds of the waking world create a lullaby of contentment. And slowly, naturally, like a flower closing its petals at the end of day, your consciousness begins to drift, to settle into the deep rest that comes after meaningful work, after patient listening, after the soul has been fed with beauty and silence. Your breathing deepens. Your heartbeat slows to its most restful rhythm. The morning light continues to play across the walls, but your awareness turns inward, toward the place where dreams and poetry are born, where the conscious mind releases its hold and allows the deeper wisdom to emerge. You rest in the lap of the ancient house, held by walls that have witnessed centuries of such mornings. The last thing you remember is the scent of roses, the gentle warmth of the brazier, the single letter standing like a promise on the cream-colored page. And then, like a boat releasing its anchor, like a bird settling into its nest, you drift deeper into the restorative darkness, into the fertile silence where all poetry waits to be born, where all beauty prepares to reveal itself, where the soul rests in the infinite embrace of the mystery that holds all things, that loves all things, that transforms all things into expressions of its own eternal creativity. Your body is warm, the morning light holds you gently, and you drift deeper into peace, into rest, into the timeless space where roses bloom forever, where fountains sing their eternal songs, where the heart learns to recognize its own reflection in the mirror of existence, where all is well, and all is beautiful, and all is exactly as it should be. The story has faded, like a candle at the edge of sleep. The room is still. The ink has dried, and the last word has already been heard, perhaps by you, or perhaps by the wind. You lie quietly now, held by darkness, wrapped in the warmth of silence. And so you drift into sleep. Good night.